Tennis-wise, I played a lot in the past 2 months now. I took some time off, some 3 days, no tennis, no gym.
Jannik Sinner's withdrawal from Cincinnati is important for one reason. It removes another major warm-up event from his US Open preparation. At 24, the world number one has missed both Canada and Cincinnati while managing a right knee problem. His explanation was direct. Despite working with his medical team, he was not ready to compete. That is the statement nobody around men's tennis wanted to hear. Is this simply a sensible precaution, or evidence that the current schedule is creating problems even for the sport's strongest players? Consider the timing. Cincinnati offers fast, hard courts, top-level opponents, and match rhythm before five-set tennis begins in New York. Sinner will now arrive with more rest but fewer competitive sets. The trade-off is obvious, even if the outcome is not. Hit subscribe now because we are separating the facts from the panic and explaining why Sinner's honest admission has changed the US Open conversation. Start with what actually happened. Sinner withdrew from the Canadian Open in late July, shortly after defending his Wimbledon title. At that stage, the decision looked understandable. Winning a major requires 7 matches, recovery, media duties, travel, and physical strain. A short break after lifting another Grand Slam trophy appeared sensible rather than alarming. Canada was therefore presented as a health management choice. Sinner expressed disappointment, but his priority was preparing for the rest of the season. That sounded controlled. It also left Cincinnati available as the logical place to restart. He could rest first, return on a hard court, test his movement against opposition, and then travel to New York with competitive rhythm. Yet that plan changed when his right knee continued to cause trouble. After consulting his doctors and team, Sinner accepted that he could not compete in Cincinnati. Notice the wording. He did not claim he was tired, protecting ranking points, or taking a holiday. Instead, he identified the knee and admitted the work of his medical staff had not made him ready in time. That distinction matters. General fatigue can improve through rest. A knee problem affects movement, balance, serving, recovery steps, and confidence when changing direction. Tennis is not played while standing politely behind the baseline. Every rally demands sudden stops, sharp pushes, wide defensive slides, and repeated loading through the legs. If a player doubts one knee for even half a second, the opponent does not send flowers. He attacks the open court. Nobody outside Sinner's medical group knows the severity, so wild claims about a career-threatening injury would be irresponsible. Still, pretending the withdrawal means nothing would be equally silly. Cincinnati is not a small exhibition. It is a Masters 1000 event, meaning the champion receives 1,000 ranking points, and it sits directly before the final major of the year. Sinner also has history there. He won Cincinnati in 2024 and reached the final again in 2025, where his run ended against Carlos Alcaraz. Those results show that the tournament has been useful preparation, not an optional stop with no connection to his success. Removing it changes the pattern he would normally use before New York. Here is the first major question. Can extra recovery replace real match pressure when the US Open begins? Practice can reproduce forehands, serves, movement drills, and even long sets. However, it cannot fully copy a packed stadium, scoreboard pressure, changing conditions, or an opponent who refuses to cooperate with the training plan. During practice, a coach can stop a drill. In a Grand Slam, the 5th set does not care whether the knee feels slightly uncertain. On the positive side, Sinner is not returning as a player searching for form across an entire season. His 2026 results have been exceptional. He won the opening Masters events at Indian Wells, Miami, Monte Carlo, and Madrid, building a record run at that level. Then he defended Wimbledon by beating Alexander Zverev in 4 sets, collecting his 5th Grand Slam title. Those achievements explain why panic would be premature. A player does not forget his patterns, court positioning, or serve mechanics during several weeks away. Sinner's baseline game is built on early timing and clean ball striking. When healthy, he takes time away from opponents so quickly that rallies can feel decided before the television replay has found the right camera angle. Nevertheless, fitness and form are not the same thing. A player can strike the ball beautifully while still questioning a deep bend explosive push, or recovery step. New York increases that concern because men play best of 5 sets. One comfortable opening round can become a 4-hour examination 2 days later. The champion must then recover and repeat the process across 2 weeks. Think about the tactical response from his rivals. If Sinner appears completely free in his movement, the discussion disappears quickly. Yet if he protects the right side, shortens points, or avoids certain slides, opponents will notice. Professional players study patterns for a living. They will use drop shots, sharp angles, and repeated changes of direction until the knee either passes the test or exposes a limitation. That is not cruelty, it is competition. Sinner would do exactly the same if an opponent entered with a visible weakness. The locker room may respect him, but nobody gives away a US Open round because the world number 1 had an inconvenient summer. Before we go deeper, drop your early verdict in the comments. Smart precaution or serious warning? Now widen the lens, because this is not only about Sinner. Carlos Alcaraz also faced injury disruption, while Novak Djokovic joined Sinner in withdrawing from Canada. Other players have repeatedly complained that the modern calendar asks them to remain available for too many long events across different surfaces and continents. Alexander Zverev recently offered a direct solution. He argued that extended Masters tournaments should return to 1-week formats. Most Masters 1000 events have expanded to 12 days, and his point was simple. Longer stays create a larger block in the calendar even when a player is not competing every day. Look at the North American swing. Canada, Cincinnati, and the US Open can keep leading players away for roughly 7 weeks when travel and preparation are included. That sounds glamorous until you remember what the schedule contains. Daily training, treatment, sponsor duties, changing hotels, unfamiliar beds, press conferences, and matches that can finish late at night. The ATP's position is that players retain choices over their schedules, and incentives are designed to encourage participation. Technically, that is true. Sinner made a choice by withdrawing. However, choice becomes complicated when rankings, bonuses, tournament commitments, and public expectations all reward constant attendance. It is like offering a rest day and attaching a scoreboard to it. On one hand, tournaments need star names. Fans buy tickets hoping to see Sinner, Alcaraz, Djokovic, Zverev, and the other leading players. Broadcasters pay for major matchups, sponsors want global attention, and cities invest heavily in hosting. When the top seeds disappear, everyone loses part of the product they were promised. On the other hand, players are the product. Without healthy athletes, the longer format becomes a beautiful, empty box. Expanding an event creates more sessions and more revenue opportunities, but it also occupies additional days in a season that was already crowded. Tennis has somehow discovered that 12 days are longer than 7. Groundbreaking work from the committee room. Sinner's withdrawal therefore becomes evidence in a larger argument. It does not prove that the schedule caused his knee problem. Injuries can happen during training, matches, or ordinary movement, and only his team understands the medical details. Even so, losing the world number 1 from consecutive Masters events shows the system is not producing the star availability it wants. The same contradiction appears across the sport. Officials expand tournaments partly to give fans more top-level tennis, but extended demands may encourage elite players to skip entire events. More scheduled tennis can result in fewer appearances from the names used to sell it. That is not clever growth, it is a calendar hitting an unforced error into its own net. So when Sinner says he is not ready, the tour should hear more than one player discussing one knee. It should hear a warning about the structure surrounding him. There's also a human point that rankings often hide. Sinner is 24, enormously successful, and supported by an experienced team. Those advantages give him access to specialists, detailed testing, and enough financial security to withdraw without wondering how next month's bills will be paid. Players ranked outside the top 50 live in a different reality. Many cover travel, coaching, accommodation, equipment, and treatment while depending on prize money from each round. Skipping a tournament may protect the body but damage the budget. Entering while hurt may pay expenses but turn a manageable problem into months away. Picture the player ranked 91st who feels pain on a practice court. Sinner can make a cautious call and focus on a grand slam. The lower-ranked professional may have ranking points to defend, a coach to pay, and no guarantee of direct entry next month. One athlete chooses between two preparation plans. Another chooses between physical risk and financial survival. That comparison does not reduce Sinner's situation. Instead, it shows why his admission carries influence. When the strongest player in the rankings cannot meet the schedule safely, the players below him have every reason to question whether the system respects recovery at all. Some fans will argue that past champions played heavy schedules without constant complaints. Fair point, but the comparison requires context. Modern hardcourt tennis is brutally explosive. Players defend from impossible positions, strike at extraordinary speed, and turn defense into attack within one step. Sports science also identifies problems earlier, which means teams are less willing to gamble with warning signs. Previous generations also skipped events, managed injuries, and suffered shortened careers. Nostalgia has a funny habit of remembering trophies while deleting the treatment room. Calling every precaution soft may sound tough online, but an injured knee does not recover faster after reading angry comments. Sinner's decision can therefore be both disappointing and responsible. Fans in Cincinnati had every right to feel let down. The tournament lost a former champion and current number one. At the same time, entering only to retire after several games would have helped nobody. Ticket holders would still miss a contest, while Sinner might leave in worse condition. That is why his direct language deserves credit. He did not hide behind a vague scheduling conflict. By saying he was not ready, Sinner established a clear standard. Participation should depend on the ability to compete properly, not merely the ability to walk onto court for introductions. The next update will matter more than any dramatic rumor, so make sure you are subscribed. Medical clearance, practice intensity, and his movement in New York will tell us what headlines cannot. What should fans watch first? His serve will provide clues, especially the leg drive that helps create pace and placement. Next comes the first step after landing. If Sinner pushes confidently into the following shot, that is encouraging. Hesitation, reduced bend, or repeated attempts to shorten rallies would raise questions. Movement toward the forehand corner will be another test. A healthy Sinner controls the baseline by arriving early and striking before opponents settle. If his positioning becomes more conservative, the court suddenly looks larger. Against elite returners, one lost step can turn control into defense. Match length will also matter. A straight sets opening win may reveal little because many top seeds can manage early rounds through serving and clean hitting. The deeper test comes when an opponent extends rallies, steals a set, and forces repeated recovery under humid New York conditions. Draw position could influence the entire story. An early opponent who plays first strike tennis might allow Sinner to settle quickly. A patient defender or creative drop shot user could test movement immediately. Luck never wins a major by itself, but it can decide whether a recovering body receives time to build confidence. Meanwhile, the ranking pressure should not be overstated. Sinner's main challenge is not proving that he deserves the number beside his name. His recent trophies already answer that. The priority is arriving healthy enough to play his normal patterns across 7 rounds. Critics may say a champion should compete whenever possible, yet intelligent champions also know when one tournament can threaten another. Sacrificing Cincinnati to protect the US Open is logical if the additional recovery produces a stable knee. The gamble fails only if the problem remains, or the lack of match play leaves him underprepared. That uncertainty is what makes the decision interesting. Rest offers health but no competitive evidence. Match play provides evidence but adds physical load. Sinner and his team selected recovery because, based on the information available to them, the knee made the other option unacceptable. In my view, that is not weakness, it is risk management. The concern is not that Sinner withdrew, the concern is that he needed to withdraw from a second straight event during a crucial part of the season. Those are different arguments, and mixing them creates panic instead of analysis. The harsh truth is that nobody can guarantee the result. He may arrive in New York refreshed, move freely, and make this entire debate look like 2 weeks of unnecessary noise. Alternatively, the knee may limit his preparation and give an opponent the opening needed to remove the top seed. Either outcome will affect the schedule debate. A successful return will support Sinner's cautious approach. Further trouble will strengthen calls for longer recovery windows and shorter Masters events. Tennis officials cannot control every injury, but they can decide whether the calendar leaves enough space to manage them. At 24, Sinner has already achieved more than most professionals manage in an entire career. That success makes it easy to treat him like a finished product. Reality says otherwise. His body is still carrying the demands of travel, training, repeated deep tournament runs, and constant expectation. This episode also reveals something important about modern champions. Strength is not only playing through pain. Sometimes it is refusing to turn a warning into permanent damage merely because a schedule, sponsor, or impatient fan wants another match. Now the final question belongs to you. Did Jannik Sinner make the correct call? Or has missing Canada and Cincinnati left his US Open defense in real danger? The answer will not come from social media guesses. It will appear in his movement, endurance, and confidence when the first ball is struck in New York. Until then, caution is justified, panic is not, and the calendar deserves serious examination. Drop your final verdict in the comments, hit the like button if you want tennis coverage that separates real evidence from empty noise, and subscribe so you do not miss the next Sinner update. The US Open is approaching, the recovery clock is moving, and one honest sentence has placed the entire men's draw under a brighter spotlight.